Hello, everyone. This is Stephen with Democracy Demythologized, where we talk about issues that democracy faces around the world. Today, I'm talking with a scholar of the Thai Army. She used to be a part of the Thai Army, and she's talking about the experiences of women in the Army and how they navigate the chauvinistic world that can be the Thai Army. In this conversation, we focus on the strategies women employ to deal with the sexism in the army. I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. I'm here with Dr. Chanapapang Pongpiboonkiat. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to
Yeah,
meet you.
yeah. How has it's morning for you. How has your day been so far?
Not much going on. I'm still waiting for the sun to come.
There we go. Um,
Yeah,
I guess a early morning conversation before you get awaken with the world. Um,
yeah,
you've done a lot of both. You've done a lot of work with the Thai military. Both you've worked in the military, but now also as a scholar studying, media and communications. Do you want to maybe talk through, like at a high level, what you do and what your journey has been?
yeah, right. In 2014, I joined the Thai military, particularly the Royal Thai Air Force, as part of the public relations team. And before that, I worked within the Thai media industry. So I had that kind of expertise to offer to them anyway, especially from the public relations kind of perspective. I also worked for publishing as well. So I was quite familiar with the whole publishing kind of processes, but also like the use of um, publishing materials for public relations purposes. And I guess that was like one of the main reasons that they recruited me. Um, and it was like quite an interesting kind of process of joining the military because the military itself is quite in Thailand is quite different from other parts of the world because it's part of the civil service scheme. So basically, you can work there for for many years until your retirement. Um, and you're part of the civil servant in Thailand. Part of that system. It means that you relies on the pension scheme, the beneficial schemes. So that's part of it. And I worked there until 2019. I mean, I had a bit of break before that as well. I came to the UK to study my MA in 2017 on a scholarship. But it's the scholarship from the UK government, and then went back for a year or so, and couldn't just continue working that anymore because of all the things I learned, but also like the realization that I just couldn't change the system that has been there for 100 years. Um, and I got the funding from the UK to do my research about the Thai military women. So I decided to leave in late 2019 and started my journey as an academic scholar in the UK. So that's how it happened.
That's awesome. Yeah, this is a very interesting journey. Give me one quick second. There's something I have to fix. This battery is going low, so I'm gonna switch it with a different.
That's all
Um,
right.
like this. Uh, the the as a quick side while we're doing this, what's your dog's name?
Omelette.
Omelette. That's a great name. Great dog.
Yeah. Again, like very Thai. Thai people love naming their pets with like food names.
Yeah, why is that? I have noticed this.
Yeah, we don't use like human names like people here, or maybe in the US as well. I'm not sure. But people here would name their pet like Charles. So I don't know, human names. We don't do that.
In the US, we people have been known to name them human names like that. I guess also, but like there are exceptions. Like my dog growing up, we called him Oreo, but that was because he was a border collie, so he was black and white. So like it was an accurate description. But I guess that was the food now that I think about it.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting. So what you mentioned that like that the changes like the way what you wanted to do you're in the military you just wouldn't be able to do. Maybe what would that be like if you what did you see as some of the kind of frustrations you saw in the Thai military and if you could change anything about it, what might you?
I mean, to talk about that, I guess I need to introduce this concept as well. It's called militarization. And you need to understand that from the Thai context as well, that the country itself has been deeply militarized, meaning that you think, and most people would think that having the military is really, really crucial. You have to have the military to protect the country. And you need to value militaristic views and norms because it's part of the country, it's part of who you are, it's part of the national identity, it's part of nationalism and patriotism. And it's not just Thailand, like most countries in the world have been deeply militarized. But I think in Thailand, it offers a different kind of like way of militarization anyway. And because of that, before I joined the military, I really had this kind of like urge to change the idea around, for example, like gender equality. I did believe that like joining the military would signal gender equality or progress in gender equality in Thailand. And because I worked for women's magazine before the Thai military, I always worked with women, and I just thought, well, maybe it's a time, and maybe joining the military as part of the public relations team, I would get to change the narrative around gender from within. I really believe that. I really believe that I could do that because especially when I first joined, I realized that most people didn't actually have backgrounds in public relations or even in media industries. And I felt like, I have so much to offer to them. But years years after years, you just realize that, it's not just about having something to offer, because there is this system out there that would benefit certain group of people, and because of that sometimes you can't break into that system, especially when you are seen as an outsider. And that's something that I learned through working for them. I had so much to offer, but they didn't need that. They didn't need what I had to offer, and it took me a while.
It sounds like maybe a better way to phrase that is that they didn't know that they did that.
That as well, but also like I think they're quite comfortable because it's very like insulated collective kind of like culture, and anyone who look or seem different wouldn't be seen as part of them. You need to shift yourself. You need to shape yourself. You need to change yourself so much to be able to fit into that collective insulated world. and I did. Because like in the first couple of years I didn't, because I wanted to be me, and I worked before that like for quite long in different kind of areas, and I was so confident that I would be that person who get to change things, even how they work around things, like around like in the areas that I perceived myself as an expert. And I did change something, and I found that I actually I was a good part of, like I was a good teamwork, and I was such a good part of that team as well. But sometimes it's just hard anyway to break into that kind of barrier, and into that kind of the insulation. So yeah, like I think they knew what I had to offer. They're quite comfortable within their own kind of like in their own skin and within their own kind of like world. And because of all the hierarchies that I had to deal with, it's just really hard. It's just really hard because it's deeply hierarchical when you introduce some ideas or when you share some ideas. Some people might take that with them and then tell someone else up there, but then nothing happened. They're just like, well, it's good, progressive, but too much. So that is the response that I usually get. It's just too much. It's just it sounds impossible. Like it sounds a bit too much, like too messy, too complicated. And because of that, like I just like, well, totally fine. But yeah, years after years, I just found that I should grow somewhere else.
I mean, that's fair. What were like some of the biggest things that where you were different? How were you different from the way of doing things that they were most used to? And like what were some of the things you had to conform to initially?
So much. I mean, everyone who get into the military and like regardless of the rank, because like that, I mean, there are two levels, like non-commissioned and commissioned. So non-commissioned are lower than, how I say, like it's like lower than junior leadership level, but for the commissioned level, it's like officer level, officership level and above. So you could rise to like the high rank kind of level. And I get into the commission level, so I was a junior officer. And anyone who get into the military in the first couple of months, sometimes like maximum like 6 months, you have to join the officership training school for 3 to 4 months. I don't know if they changed that rule like now, because they've changed a lot of rules in the past 6, 7, 8, 9 years. But yeah, everyone has to join that training school as part of the kind of the shape shifting program. You need to change yourself so much, especially for those who don't come from the cadet background or the military academy background. Like people like me, like who graduated from like the civilian universities, like non-military universities, and I don't know, have a life outside of the military before. So we need to go through that kind of process. And I think in the first month, I felt that this is quite cringy, because like everything that you do, it feels really odd to me, like as an outsider. Like you need to walk in a line, you need to learn how to do the salute. You need to, even before you eat, you need to perform that like ritual, like discipline, where you just need to, I don't know if people outside of Thailand in other militaries would do the same, but we have to like perform some kind of disciplinary rituals, so that everyone eats at the same time or start eating at the same time. So you can't just go there and have your lunch. You need to perform this ritual to practice disciplines. And there are so many things that like you don't even think about outside of the military. Like it's not part of the daily life, like it's not part of the everyday practices. So when I get there and I just felt the first month was really tough and I cried a lot because I mean I get up at 4 a.m. I clean my shoes, like the combat shoes. And you have to learn how to clean the combat shoes and all those kind of things. Like you have to learn how to wear the uniform, like put things on. It's something that I never have done like before that because how would you? It was quite a shock to me, and I cry a lot, and I just felt like and back then all women had to cut their hair short as well. It's like this kind of length, and you needed to keep this length until you finish the training. If your hair didn't look dark enough, if you got like colored hair, for example, you need to change your hair color to dark, like natural color. All those kind of little things. It just the first month it felt so difficult, but then you learn how to accept that and you change yourself so much. And I felt like by the time that we get to like month 4, like the end of the training, you start to look the same. You start to look the same and act the same. And things that used to cringe you out, you just accepted them as part of your routine and as part of who you become, I think. Yeah, so it's part of it. But yeah, and I remember like after I finished the training and started like and went back to my department for work, and I remember my dad told me like he wouldn't believe that I would turn into this person who the way that I stand, the way that I speak to him, the way that I act, I look like a military person. I look very soldiery. And he did say that like you look very soldierly. And I was like, seriously? And he just like he couldn't imagine me turning into that person until he saw it. And I think that happens to everyone, and even with someone like me. So yeah,
This makes total sense. I think I could relate to you in that. Like I tend not to be the type of person that's super used to like highly regulated discipline.
Yeah.
I think I would struggle in a military environment. Like I would be the person in that comedy that like is standing at attention but falls and trips everybody. Something that would be very much me. But yeah, what you've done a lot of like analysis from like a gender military, trying to understand gender dynamics within the military. Broadly speaking, what have you learned?
Well, I mean, it's not a surprise anyway because the militaries around the world been debated as one of the most gendered institutions, like one of the core, the root of what gender means, like in the society. Like usually, like it's a reflection. It would mirror gender meanings in society. So it's not a surprise anyway to see or to discover that this is how women are treated, this is how men are treated, this is what masculinity and femininity mean, like within the militarized or the military context. But I guess like what I learned so much from the from researching Thai military women is that a lot of women use social media and social media practices to cope with like tiny and structural difficulties in their everyday life. And I think it's not just Thailand as well, but Thailand happens to be a country where like people are very active on social media.
Mhm.
And because of that, not just like Facebook, like Instagram, TikTok. I think Thailand is one of the most active TikTok, like with the highest numbers of TikTok active TikTok users in the world. People are really active on social media to the point it's part of their everyday life, and that's something that I learned from the Thai case as well, like case study. That women sometimes they just hate something at work, or they really struggle with something at work, and they just use something like memes, emojis, I don't know, like anything on that available on Facebook or Instagram to cope with these kind of struggles. Turn something into like an inside joke. So that's something that I learned. But also like we talked a lot about
And just to be clear, though, when you say an
yeah,
inside joke, you mean
yeah.
an inside joke with others in the military, or like an inside joke more broadly with the community, or you mean like specifically with others
Yeah,
in the service?
yeah, like within the Thai military, but they use like social media practices to convey or to tell those kind of jokes. And you have to be that. You have to experience that to understand these jokes or understand these as jokes, I guess. But yeah, like and so yeah, that's part of the research. But we also talked a lot about the role of the Thai military, like cadet academies, and that's something that I knew, and everyone knew, but no one talked about it that much. How women would feel about the existence of these cadet academies, because like in Thailand, most officers would come from the cadet academies, most of them, and most high rank leadership roles would be reserved for these men from the cadet academies only. So even if women are so good at that job, or even when this job is very particular for people from certain kind of backgrounds. So, for example, like media department, still your boss would come from the cadet academies, whose background is from engineering or I don't know, aviation. And you need to accept that. So that's part of it. And again, like we knew it. Everyone knew it. Everyone in Thailand knows it. But no one actually think about it that much, because again, like most people wouldn't really they wouldn't be impacted by it. But actually they they are impacted by the cadet academies. And there's some scholars looking at the cadet academies as well. Because the cadet academies are known to produce several Thai, like former Thai prime ministers, mainly coming from the military schools. So it's part of it. Like there is like a tight relationship between the Thai military, like cadet academies, and the military schools. So yeah, that is the thing that I can talk about like later. But yeah, that's something that I learned, and we talked a lot about how they felt, like women felt about this existence of the Thai cadet academies, and it's like it's a combination of frustration and acceptance, I guess, like because they can't do anything about it. It's embedded in policies. It's part of the policies. It's part of the hierarchies that you need to, for women, like women need to support these men regardless, because one day there will be the the biggest boss, the highest superior. They would be the commander in chief. They would be, and because of that, you need to support them regardless. If they need anything, you need to support them. So that's your job, and it's not just for women. Like it's for men from outside of the cadet academies as well. It's for those men who come from other academic other academic no other not cadet other military academies lower than cadet level, so they are taught to support like these men, like these people, because one day they will rise to the commander in chief and they might help you, or they might, I don't know, feel that you helped them before, so you just need to make sure you build that career. And again, like I think the first couple of years I found it quite ridiculous, the whole idea around supporting male cadets and allowing them to rise and to progress to certain ranks, or allow the fact that there are certain roles reserved for these people only. No one could take in, even when you so good at your job, even when you finish 3 degrees, even when you have qualifications, you couldn't get to the same kind of level. So I think that again, that's one of the things that kind of forced me out, because I didn't see the point of working really hard if you didn't get to rise or thrive in the same kind of way. But most women that I talk to, they recognize that, but accepted that, because I think like for some of them, they questioned a lot. And they questioned a lot about this unfairness within the hierarchy. But again, like, and I need to respect that choice to stay as well, because not everyone could afford to be out, to quit the military, given that you can actually work there until retirement with all the benefits and like pension scheme. But I found that I just couldn't really make sense of things anymore. But yeah, that's something that I learned as well, like from talking to them, like, because when you in the military as part of those like outsiders, sometimes you don't actually talk or discuss much about your experience, because you want to conform and you want to be part of it as part of your integration. But once I was out, or I am out, and looking back and talk to these people, and we kind of reflected together, like, what is your experience? This is my experience. What do you think about this? This is what I think about this. You have the space to discuss your experience. But believe me, like when I was there, like working, I didn't even think about it, because I was shaped to accept and to conform. So I was too scared to ask questions. I think that's also part of the problem as well, when you choose to silence yourself. I hope that makes sense.
No, this makes total sense. I think it's. I think like it seems like I I could see how different. I mean, I could understand where you're coming from. Where like, why work in that kind of environment? Like, what's the point? It seems like people
Yeah.
get. It's like they almost get people get slotted into these roles. It's like these people get slotted into. You guys are going to be the elite leaders as men in these specific elite academies, and then women are slotted into this. You're expected to serve them capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah. The when you like, I guess when let's start here. Why do you think this built? Why do you think it's become such a both a patriarchal space and like an elitist space based off these specific academies?
Oh my god, it has to go back quite early. And this again, this is just my understanding because I didn't study like the history of it. I did a tiny bit for the part where or when the military started enlisting women into the military in 1940s, around that kind of time, as part of the Thai modernization and as part of the, I don't know, responding to the global kind of like influences as well. Just during the war, World War II, I think, or after, and after the World War II. So that kind of time, and because the government, I mean, the leader back then, he's from the military, and he just came up with this idea that like so he's like Jumping Black People Songklam, and he just came up with this idea that like, well, as part of the Thai modernization, it's time we recruit or enlist women, like the first group of female cadets, to join the Thai armed forces back then, to join the cadet academy.
And do you know what year it was?
1940s.
1940s. I
Yeah.
think that's before. I'm pretty sure that's long before the U.S. did it. I don't remember the exact year.
Really?
I'm pretty sure the U.S. was
Yeah.
much newer.
Probably.
If you were to Google that, because I don't know off the top of my head. But yeah, keep going.
I know, yeah. Because I guess, yeah, with the cadet system, I mean, but I remember like for the US, it could just be the auxiliary, kind of like the nursing corps, something like that.
There's been a long history of nursing. I guess I'm thinking of like fully fledged soldiers, not the auxiliary. Yeah. You're right. The nursing, I mean, I think that starts around the mid 1800s. Could be U.S. Civil War. Could have been after. Yeah, that one has a long history.
Yeah, but yeah, and it was quite funny when I read about it because like for the Thai case, like for the Thai military context, the reason that Jumping Black People Songkram wanted to enlist women, young women into the cadet system was that he wanted to recruit his daughter into the system, and his daughter was one of the first 28 female cadets in Thailand. But this project, like this enlistment, discontinued anyway after a couple of years of enlistment because of the demolishment of the like Jumping Black People Songkram's administration. So it's gone. And I think the rule from the defense ministry was like, if you wanted to stay. If you wanted to go, totally fine. So 28 of you decide your own path. And I think that was the gap when when they didn't have Thai female cadets or military personnel like within the armed forces. And I think around 1970s something, could be 1974, the defense ministry just like, well, I think it's time again for Thailand to have now not cadets, but to have women joining the military as part of the regular kind of personnel, like working permanently as part of the military system.
And sorry, just to make sure, what year is this? The second
1974.
Yeah. I believe that's closer to when the U.S. first started too. But yeah,
probably. And maybe there's some kind of like political influences, like global influences outside of that as well. Again, I'm not really sure. Not a historian. But yeah, around that time, and it took a while. A couple of regulatory laws, to eventually finalize this enlistment, to be like a long-term project. and I think that could be like 10 years. And around like 1980s, like late 1980s, that was the time when like the Thai military actually recruited women every single year to build the forces that started to grow, but not many men joined the military. So like because of the like manpower kind of perspective, like the structural perspective, they wanted women to fill in certain roles, especially supporting roles that military men from the cadet academies couldn't or wouldn't fill or work that roles. So they started to regularly recruit women from around that kind of time. So that's how it happened. And right now, like currently, most women still, I mean, they are still recruited every year, but not into any combatant kind of roles. Maybe some, but not that many.
Mm.
And there's the rule, and I'm not sure about this, but there's the rule that like only how many percent of women can work in combatant roles. Can't go over this number.
Is it?
To kind of sorry,
Is
yeah.
it like what's the ratio? Like, is there does that mean that women is it? I'm assuming it's not 50-50, or are women like a much lower percentage of the military force?
So like yeah, I think there is the percentage like so each force can't have more than 25% of women serving. And by each force, like Navy, Army, Air Force. But then there's the thing, there is the institution called the headquarters. And again, this is like quite different from other countries from what I studied. The headquarters is like the like a domain, like a body that overlook, like the monitor, like the three forces. It's like it is basically the headquarters, and people who work in these headquarters would come from three forces. So this headquarters don't have the same kind of power, or the same level of power as Army, Navy, Air Force, because those three are more like standalone, autonomous kind of bodies. Like they have their own boss, they have their own commander in chief, they have their own kind of people. But for the headquarters, they recruit people from three forces, and they have like commander in chief. But again, like they have certain kind of power, but it's exercised in a different kind of way. And for this headquarters, because most positions are as administrative anyway, so they are allowed to have more women, like more than 25% serving in this headquarters, like doing like office work basically. People work.
That's interesting, and that actually seems surprisingly decentralized. It's like like I think the equivalent in the U.S. would be the Pentagon, and I think the Pentagon is like the central. Like I think the Pentagon really controls a lot of the branches, not the other way around. I honestly don't. I'm not an expert on the U.S. military, so I could be completely wrong about that. But like,
I think it's quite similar in that sense.
Okay. So when you're talking about like, so you have these military academies, and the graduates from the military academy, these specific, it seems like specific elite military academies. The men who graduate from that are much more likely to be the like senior officers and the leaders of the military in the next generation. One question I have about this, and this will connect back to the experiences with women, but like So you were saying that like women often kind of have a like in the military will have a like I'm going to serve these people because they're going to be the people in charge. I get, and they kind of seek their own goals by it seems like almost like patriots, like they ally themselves with
Yeah,
this
yeah, 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 yeah,
potential leader.
yeah, yeah,
Are
yeah.
is it clear like who's gonna act from these academies, who's gonna be like in charge? Or is it one of these
Yes,
situations where like yes, they graduate like
yeah,
25 to 50 people and
yeah,
one of them is eventually going to be the head of the military
yeah,
so many decades from now, and they kind of all vie for power with each other to
yeah,
decide who gets what elite ranks or kind of
yeah,
who wins out? Or
yeah,
is it a much more clear like this person is the understudy to be the next elite? Does that make sense?
yeah. Makes sense to me. Um, it is quite clear,
Okay, okay.
and that's because again, like the and maybe this is just a Thai military thing. I can't tell as well because I guess like you almost need to study from within to be able to tell. For example, like with the US, like do people like form this line of families? Like when your father is the former commander in chief, then the son what if the son decided to join the military, he could one day follow the path. I'm not sure, but that is the case in Thailand. Most people in the cadet academies, they come from the same kind of family. So like the grandfather studied in the military academies, cadet academies. Then in do the army, because again cadet academies, there's like a preschool where everyone would need to study from this preschool, and then after 2 years they need to choose that path. Like I'm gonna go into the army, I'm gonna go into the air force, I'm gonna go into the navy. But these first 2 years they form the fraternity, um like connections. So they form lines of like brotherhood, and after that they might go somewhere else. But this like line of fraternities, like connections, would help them eventually because they will need to kind of like cooperate and collaborate across forces some way somehow. um but after they go into the preferred kind of force, like navy, army, air force, usually if the grandfather, the father, the son, they would choose the same force because it gives them benefit, especially when the grandfather already paved the way from lines of fraternity, from this kind of like um lines of like of supporters of him. So one day the father joined the army using this like benefit, like this benefit that the grandfather already like set up and established for him. And both of them rise to the commander in chief. So the son one day joined the army as well, because now it's even a lot easier because everyone knows that name, everyone knows them, everyone respect them even before they do anything. So this is part of it.
Mm.
Uh, and so for me, I think it's quite clear. But I mean, maybe it's quite different as well because that's how that, for example, like in the Air Force, to be able to rise to the commander in chief, you have to, I mean, firstly, come from the cadet academies, like the Air Force academies, but you have to also be a pilot or used to be a pilot. Like, and as most of the time, fighter pilot. So you have to have that kind of background on your CV. And which again, women aren't allowed to be a fighter pilot anyway. Even now, they're recruiting some women. And again, we can talk about that later. But in the past, I don't know how many years, 100 years of the Air Force, we never had any female fighter pilots. So most fighter pilots would come from the Air Force academies. And you would know, like somehow you would know that like, oh, these are the best fighter pilots. And they also like happen to be someone's sons as well. So probably these people will one day be your superiors, like the commander in chief. And they would I think they know as well, and because of that they would form the line of support. So usually they would pick like, oh, you're so good at this, maybe you come and work for me. Because like once they finish with the like pilot study, I don't know, doing all those kind of things to complete the criteria, they would be assigned to be the leaders of the departments as well. Not just in Bangkok, but like across the country. And I think that's when people start to realize that, oh, this person maybe because of their career path, it looks like they are going this way, and maybe one day they would be the commander in chief. So maybe we need to be nice to him just from now, when he's still like a junior leader, taking care of like 20 people, and we will be the first 20 people that would help him. So yeah, that's how we know. But it's hard to explain because it's like it's a combination of that profile and their background, like military background and family background. But they know.
This is super interesting. So this almost sounds like aristocratic. It sounds like.
That as well, yeah.
Why do you say that?
No, it is, and I was thinking about something else, like something like just the TV series, House of Dragons, something like that.
There we go. I was thinking about Game of Thrones too, actually.
Game of Thrones as well. Yeah, I was thinking about Game of Thrones. I couldn't. Yeah, and then House of Dragons. Like you come from this house, and people will just nurture you for you to one day get to that position that you, I don't know, take care of other people.
Right. Well, and one difference with Game of Thrones, at least in my mind, it's a good depiction of the other side of this. Because I've seen this in the real world too, but maybe a fictional example is a good one to, because it's almost like over the top cliche. But like, if you look at, so you have like the elites, right? You have the elite houses. Yeah. I don't know. You have like the Lannisters. You have the ones in the north. I'm blanking on the name of. It's been so long. Yeah. I forget all the names. But like, but if you look at the people that are like below, that are clearly not the like potential like viable for the throne, they have to like decide which of the elites that they're going to attack with and how they're going to navigate that, because it's not clear who's going to be the one that wins out. What you're describing is in some ways it's much more static. It's like everyone knows these specific individuals are going to be the ones who decide. So you know exactly who you need to kind of win over to get to show patronage to as a woman in the military to get perks, I guess.
Yeah, and you're right. And I forgot to mention the patronage system, but that's what we call it. And it's not just within the military, like it's within the civil service kind of system, where like you know that this person will you don't have the chance, but you know this person will one day rise to the top level, and you want to be good to this person, like support this person or these individual until they rise, and one day they would return the favor somehow by, I don't know, making sure you in a good position, maybe you get to station in a nice location, something like that.
And how did you personally navigate this? And as you talk to different women in the military in your research, or just when you were in the military and your various friends and people, like what were the different ways that other women would navigate?
It's really tough though because I'm not from the military family. Like
Right.
no one in my family works for the military, but most of my colleagues, they're from the military families.
So they just grew
So
up with this.
yeah, they grew up with it. They grew up with it and they grew up accepting it. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, like that kind of added another layer of like rebellion because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, this is so wrong. And because you're not, I mean, I was a complete outsider, not just as a woman, but also as someone who's not from the military background. And sometimes like some women would marry like military men from the cadet academies or backgrounds anyway. So they're part of the insider eventually. But I wasn't. I was like a complete outsider, like looking at like these activities and these like lies or connections and just trying to make sense of how I would get into that or how I would somehow survive or get to actually work the job that I wanted to work or enjoy working. But I think for most women, especially women that I talk to, or even women that I worked with, they I think they navigated different different kind of like journeys and different kinds of battles, I guess. Because for them it's just like, well, my father is this person. My father used to work for this person. So for me or for them, I I have this like gratefulness to begin with, like at the beginning of the journey, and I
Mm-hmm.
have to feel that like I helped this person for this, and then maybe they later on like marry someone. It's just like it's quite complicated, and I can see that from talking to them because it's just like layers after layers of like of not struggle some because I don't want to assume that they struggle sometimes. But it's just layers of complexities, layers on top of layers of complexities where they had to make sense of who they are in the military as a military daughter, a military woman, then a military wife, like spouse. So three layers already. And sometimes they would say something that suggests recognition of the problems, but it's almost like they hold back themselves in a way
Mm-hmm.
by by co co-opting or accepting it
Mm-hmm.
eventually, like saying like, well, but this seems wrong, but I think from I don't know, but then my partner just said to me, you should do this and this. Like I think one of the women that I talked to, she said like she got called out for wearing a bright red lipstick, and she's like, "This is who I am, and I love it." So I insisted to continue wearing a red lipstick anyway. But then one day, I think her partner, like
Wait, just to be clear, she continued to wear the lipstick, or you continued to wear the lipstick?
she continued to wear lipstick.
Right.
Um, but I think at one point, her partner, who was like a quite a high ranked like military officer, um, told her that maybe you should kind of stop doing that because um we would get to or they would get to like this is like for him, he would be considered for promotion next year, and it's important that we didn't do anything wrong as a team. So then she stopped wearing, I mean she didn't say she stopped, but she was like, well, so then I kind of felt like I should stop doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So even when she recognized that, but when she got, I don't know, when her partner said something or suggested something to her as part of his benefit, she co-opted and she accepted it
Mm.
as part of her realities, regardless. But that's just one of the many examples.
Yeah, this makes total sense. I guess one thing I'm thinking about, and I'm trying to think about how the how this will play out in this specific example. But I guess in general, one thing I'm wondering is the women who, as they transition from military daughters, military cadets, to military wives, we'll say, and as they mature, do they do you think that they have a sense that something is off with how this is happens, and they're just not like open about acknowledging it, maybe because
Yeah.
it's not a good space for it? To what extent do you think to what extent do you think they realize that there's problems and they're just not going to talk about it, or to what extent do you think they just kind of don't realize there's a problem and just think this is normal?
I guess it depends. And like from women that I talk to, like they from different kind of backgrounds. And you can tell because like young military women, like women who just started working for the military for a couple of years, like let's say like 1 to 5, 6 years, they still maintain that self outside of the military. So their recognition about what goes wrong within the military are much more pronounced, because they can kind of do that kind of a comparison between life before and like the life after. But some women who have worked for the military for longer than 10 years, like 15 years or 20 years, I think some of them just couldn't really see what the problem is anymore. Maybe they used to, but I think they just condition themselves, not just the military conditions them to believe that this is okay, to be thinking that way or this way. And I guess like the military as an institution as well, a social institution, they signal progressions some way, like in like through certain kind of like, for example, right now the Air Force is recruiting female fighter pilots for the first time in the history.
Mm.
It's almost like it's signaling gender progression. And for women within like inside the Air Force themselves, they feel like actually we are part of this progression. It's good. It's a good thing. And they're happy about it. And they really believe that this is it. This is part of it. But when you step outside of that and you look at all these kind of like progressive activities, like from my experience, for example, you realize that nothing ever lasted. Like it's part of tokenism. It's
Mm.
part of the public relations like campaigns and activities. It kind of like it grabs media attention, but nothing ever lasted. Nothing ever lasts like ever. It happens for a certain amount of time and then it disappeared.
Mm.
So you know that it doesn't actually change the structural kind of inequalities that we've been fighting for forever. But it's hard to see that from the inside. Like, it's really hard for me as well. It was really hard to see that and address that from the inside because you stay part of it. And you wanted to actually believe that this is part of the progression. And I wanted to be part of this progression and I wanted to support it. And I don't blame them that they can't see it because I didn't see it myself.
Mm.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean,
keep going.
That's no,
Yeah,
that's it for me.
this makes total sense. I mean, it is. I've seen this in other institutions, where maybe they have a bit of a period where they hire, as an example, maybe they hire, maybe a bunch of women, maybe a bunch of racial minorities, and then
Yeah,
a lot of the new employees will come in with a like, we're gonna change things. I'm a part of making things
yeah,
better, and it makes sense. Like, but then
yeah, yeah,
over, like, I've seen this in another institution where I was at, where like over the course of a couple years, those people, as they just got hit more and more by the exclusion and
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
problems in the system, they just get
yeah,
discouraged, and some of them leave, but like they get, I guess either they get discouraged or they learn to accept it, depending on the case. But
yeah,
like I've
yeah,
seen organizations almost, from like almost go through cycles where they'll hire people for like for a couple years, and they'll be
yeah, yeah,
like, we're
yeah,
increasing our representation, blah 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 blah
yeah,
blah,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and then like a couple years later, those people will pretty much all leave, whether they get fired or whether they, for some BS reason, or if
Yeah,
they quit because they just can't handle it, and then they kind
definitely.
of start over a couple years later.
Always, yeah, it's a cycle. Like, and I've seen that myself. But like I said, like when you're still part of it, like you don't see it, and that's how scary it is. I think because you're like you again, like you socialize to really believe that this is part of something big. Because again, like it's part of the nationalism, it's part of it contributes to the nationalism or nationalist like sentiment. It's contributing to the patriotic kind of narratives. And
Mhm.
you just feel like, wow, this is we are part of something so important and so big. So you don't actually see what goes wrong or what have been wrong within the military. Like you don't see it.
Mhm. So what yeah, I love to hear kind of how you experienced this. So you were, before you were talking about how you said, and I don't remember the exact way you phrased it, but
Yeah,
basically
yeah,
you
yeah,
said that like you had to learn how to, you tried to figure out how to do what you wanted, and
yeah,
like basically become what you wanted to become in the military. And it seems like
yeah,
ultimately you concluded that you couldn't, and then you left. But like,
yeah.
how in this system, how did you try to go about doing that when you joined, and what was that process like for you of of trying to do that, and then kind of ultimately learning, like,
Yeah. I guess like again like I'm quite lucky in a way because my department was quite flexible. Um Lots of women in the department because it's a public relations department, like media operations department overall. And but I was like and I worked like within this department, I worked in this like small unit doing documentaries, military documentaries, um TV and radio kind of materials
mm,
for PR, like public relations purposes. Um, and because of that, like they allowed me to be myself pretty much. I mean, not entirely, but I had flexibilities in my working process. Like if I wanted to do this in this certain way, they would try to help me to be able to do that. Like for example, like with the documentary, um, if I wanted to film in this way, they would let me.
mm,
And because the production team was also quite had the same kind of flexibility as well. So usually we try to come up with something quite adventurous and fun, and then got rejected, got rejected eventually. But at least like I had such a good team that I worked with, and I think that helped me a lot. Because if they put me in like a very like rigid, um, hierarchical teams, I would leave in the first year.
mm,
um, but I guess that's something that I didn't expect as well. That I would make like a lot of like friends and met like nice colleagues. But yeah, I think that helped. to be able to work or use my capacity or full capacity at work. I think that's just like that's really important to me. But then like outside of that, I still had to deal with a lot of institutional kind of like culture and practices. Like I still need to perform my role as a military person. The way that I walk around, for example, like in my workplace, the way that I need to kind of dress, and even just like I don't know, be seen at work, still need to conform to those kind of practices like strictly. Otherwise, I would be called out or punished, or warned by superiors. So yeah, it's just about balancing what I liked and enjoyed at work and what I had to deal with and to conform to. So yeah, it's about balancing like between like those two. But I think the thing that I didn't enjoy the most was about those kind of discipline, or the disciplining kind of practices. I'm not the most disciplined person in this world, and I'm so like against like those kind of disciplines sometimes. So for me to accept something like if I need to do something, it could take a month to get to the top rank to hear something that I propose, for example. And I have to deal with that quite a lot because it's because of the hierarchies that I dealt with as part of my work. And yeah, of course, like there's some kind of like sexism at work as well, and how people exploited the system, and to have to deal with that on top of everything else. But then the work was fun. Um, other other than like outside of the work, it wasn't that fun because like there's some kind of I mean, I had to deal with sexist jokes, for example, pretty much every day. Coming from people I was supposed to respect, for example, like male superiors saying something so inappropriate in the meeting, into your face, into your colleague's face, and you're just like, well, couldn't say a thing, and just kind of fake laughed at it, like, okay, that's funny, but it wasn't actually funny. And I think those kind of things, in the first couple of years, I manage. But then, like, I think the turning point was when I came to the UK, and again, I never imagined myself doing a PhD, like ever. I enjoy academia and academic in general, but it's not at the PhD level. But I read a lot about militarization and how the military shapes public life in the country, those kind of things. So I learned a lot during my MA, and I think that's when I went back, I just couldn't unsee things. I just couldn't make sense of things in the way that I used to because now I knew more. Like I knew more about what was wrong with the military, and it's just hard for me. So that was the turning point, I guess, for me.
Mhm. Yeah, this makes total sense. I mean, what do you so like I wanted to ask about the second time too. Like you did mention at the beginning how like the Thai military in some ways is like almost the foundation of some of the patriarchy within Thailand.
Yeah, yeah,
But like,
yeah.
yeah, what impact does all this going on in the military have on Thailand as a society or as a nation?
Maybe not much now because people people have gained like awareness. But back then, like how I grew up, for example, like especially before the 2014 military coup.
Mm,
I mean, we have 13 successful military coups in the past since when? 1923 probably, or 1932. So from 1932 to 2026.
Yeah, so
like
basically the last century.
The last century, like 13 successful military coups. And then some other unsuccessful military coups as well. But I grew up with this idea that the military is such a prestigious, respectable institution. And how I grew up, and when I grew up, like when I was young, people wanted to work for the military, and people saw the military as something so high up, something that anyone who worked for the military, especially those like male top brass, they are respectable people, like individuals. And that's why, like in especially Thai news media, they would call these top brass using the title big, and then like followed by the nickname. For example, if I were to be a top brass, only male top brass, if I were to be a male top brass, media would call me Big Natty, for example. And I grew up seeing that. And it's just part of your life, like part of your everyday like practices. And that's why I always wanted, I never always wanted to work for the military, but I always saw the military as this institution that we all should protect and respect. And there is the relationship, and maybe I can't get into this too much, but the relationship between the Thai military and the monarchy as well. Some scholars, American and British scholars, call this relationship the monarchized military, because the military can't survive without the monarchy. And their job, and this is what everyone in the military are taught to believe and to always prioritize, is to protect the monarchy. And because of that, like as a Thai person growing in this like environment, especially like 20, 30 years ago, you just felt that you needed to protect the military in order to protect the monarchy. And maybe that, my worldview has changed so much. But before that, this is what I believe. And I guess that's how I get into the military as well. And this is just the example of how most Thai people would think about the military in Thailand, like because of this relationship.
Yeah, this makes total sense. And like, what do you think changed since 2014? You said things have been kind of changing since.
Yeah. So many kind of factors, I guess, but one of the key factors was the change of the generational thinking as well. Like young people don't believe in the same things that most people would believe. Like people from like my parents' generations, my grandparents' generations, or even my generations, like they don't share the same kind of values, and I understand that. And I think I am inclined towards that as well. But I think it's just like, because from 2014 so that military government lasted for 9 years. So they were in power for 9 years, 8 to 9 years, until the 2019 election. But they also kind of won the election as well. So from 2014 to 2023, they were in power. And young people just saw the downside of having the military or supporting the military, especially allowing the military to permeate political kind of spheres. So they saw that and they saw the downside of it, and they just decided not to support that permeation anymore. So I think that was the key thing. Like, they were in power for far too long. And at the same time, it was like during the rise of like social media as well. Like, young people use social media to discuss politics, to talk about, I don't know, like patriarchy, to talk about feminism on social media. And they realize, well, who are these people? Why they're in power for this long? And why, like, even when we actually get to vote, like in the 2019 election, they still won when clearly they didn't. So there's so many things that went wrong in that kind of time, when they were in power. I think that was when the belief in the military kind of declined, and their popularity kind of like declined as well.
Hmm. Yeah, this makes sense. I mean, I guess as a media scholar, what role, this is what you were talking about at the end of this, but what
Yeah,
role do
yeah,
you see the media having in all of this? Seems like
yeah.
do you think social media help cause people to become a bit more concerned about this, or do you think
Mm.
they, the younger generation kind of had these concerns, and media just allow that conversation to be replicated more explicitly? Or yeah, what do you?
I mean, definitely. And again, like, it kind of, again, resonates with something like Habermas, like public sphere, when people come together and get to share their ideas. More people come together and share ideas, even more ideas. They come out of this like echo chamber. So I think it's not just in Thailand as well. It happens around the world, especially during this particular time, like when the nationalist sentiment rises. Like, there'll be people who don't agree with nationalism or nationalist sentiment anyway. Same with the case of Thailand. I think it's just the combination of the rise of social media and the change in belief among young generations, because of more access to knowledge. For example, something that came with the rise of social media, they could access new knowledges like outside of Thailand, because, like, again, at school we were taught, or we are taught to owe these core institutions, including the monarchy and the military. We are taught to do so as part of our belief system, and it has been done like without thinking. But once they can, like young generations, they can access new knowledges. They learn more about democracy. They learn more about the problematic sides of the military institution. They learn more about gender. They just can't believe things that older generation used to believe. And I think because of that, it kind of created this uprising. Not so much in 2014, but you started to see the changing narrative anyway, like after the military coup. Um, and that was when I just started working for the military as well. So I started to see the changing narrative, but you started to see more and more of that, and you started to see how people, from just talking, they turn their conversations into like actions. So in 2019, 2020, there were the nationwide protests, for example, instigated by young people who didn't believe in the military anymore. and just call them out and just like, this has to be demolished. It has to stop. We call for military reform. We call, and this is them. They call for military reform. They call for the change of how the military would function. They try to take back the power. So I think it's just a combination of that, I don't know, in internal and external influences, like social media practices, global influences. I don't know, like and people just fed up as well. Like these young people, they just fed up seeing the cycle of military coups, so they just went out and do something. So it's a combination of internal and external influences for me. Like, but social media definitely plays such a crucial part in that, like facilitating this changing narrative.
Mm-hmm. And this makes total sense. And yeah, like what about in the military specifically? Like, have you seen social media change how women in the military think about the system that they're now a part of, or even how men in the military think about the dynamics you've been talking about? Has it had any impact in the military itself?
Yeah, as well. And I think again, like, because social media practices are external influences, like part of external influences, and this is something that I did a tiny bit in my research, because again, like in the past, and there were certain years when the military wouldn't allow military personnel to use social media freely. Like they had to kind of follow the rules because social media was seen as a threat at one point. Can't remember exactly when, probably 2017, 18. Because people started to use social media. People in the military started to use social media to convey their political views. Before that, social media was just about self, like, I don't know, share, like journaling their everyday lives. And at one point, it turned into a political tool. And because of that, the military tried to tame or controlled and censored how people use social media. But it didn't work anyway. It didn't work that way, because eventually people would try to use social media to share their political and non-political views regardless. But I think just, I don't know, having social media in like and allowing the use of social media inside the military or as part of their military life, it's changed everything already. Because they, again, same way, they access opinions outside of the insulated collective environments. Because like before social media, I think even when they knew and they saw what went wrong within, they didn't know what people actually think, like outside of outside of the military. But with social media, they get to see reactions, like public sentiment, like public responses to certain military events. For example, like every single year we would do the air show for the Children's Day. It's like it's an annual kind of activity. And before social media, we would do that regardless. Like it's just part of the activities. But with social media, you get to see how people get frustrated from the air show, like the noise that it makes. I don't know, like the traffic that it causes. Like people complain about it. People started to say something about, oh well, did you buy the fighter like the jets just for this? So you get to see public sentiments and public narratives from a different kind of perspective, especially from both insider and outsider perspectives. And because of that, it shaped the way that the military itself functions and operates.
Mm.
But that's my thinking.
Yeah, this makes sense. I mean, admittedly, this reminds me of a time that we went camping, and we happened to be camping right next to like a military
Yeah.
airport, and like
Mm.
you see a bunch of planes, and it's very loud. It can be very hard to be right there, and you're like, oh yeah, this means that we're get woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then at 2:45
Yeah.
again for when these planes go off.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
I guess one thing I'm thinking about is like, okay, so a part of what you're saying kind of makes me think about something like the Arab Spring, where like, oh, social media, and then suddenly you get this big push for democracy, and they kind of overflow the like patriarchal powers that be kind of thing, and that might be very optimistic. That's how people talk during the Arab Spring, and if you look more carefully at like what actually happened, like Egypt eventually got another dictator come in, like it got basically a new elite. I guess this is something I was thinking about, and the reason why I bring it up is because I'm curious, like, do you think there do you think that there's hope for these kind of dynamics being reformed? And if so, what do you think that would look like?
It's hard to tell, to be fair, and I'm trying to be hopeful as well. I think I answered these questions before. It just, I mean, military reform, it might happen. It might happen in the future, like when, but it might not happen as well. Because again, like, given the fact that it is such a collective, like having that specific kind of culture, like type of institution, to change something, it requires more than just a group of people being in power, because there might be some people somewhere within the military who actually enjoy how it is right now. Like not many people see the military institution right now as problematic, a problematic kind of like functioning. And because of that, like it requires so much more. Like it requires so much more to actually initiate that kind of the reforming from within. But I do believe that maybe at some point in the future, and this is like this applies to not just like the Thai military as well. It might be like a global trend where militaries as I don't know, like proactive security institutions need to be reformed, need to be downsized, need to be less proactive for some reasons. So yeah, it could happen in the future. It could just be like one of those institutions that just function just like the companies, for example, like with like a mix between like civilians and non-civilians, like civilians and military personnel. Because I think in Germany it is functioning that way, where they recruit like civilians with expertise to work or to be or to lead certain departments, and that helps the military in general to function properly and more effectively. That might happen, but I can't see it happening anytime soon. Like not in the next 10 years, like for sure. So I can't see how it would look like. It might happen, but it's been like this for like 100 years, and because it's the patronage system, it has to be someone somewhere sacrificing their benefit. I'm not sure who that person would be and how. So yeah, it's just hard for me to imagine that.
That's fair. I mean, those people would have to sacrifice their power, and
So much.
there are. I guess I think it's fair to say there are very few instances of people
Yeah.
willingly sacrificing their own power once that power is.
No,
Um,
yeah. And because like it will benefit the offsprings as well. It's not just them, like their sons, their daughters who might want to join the military. They want to keep the benefits for these people. So it's beyond them.
this makes sense. I mean, do
Yeah.
you think there's a way for the military to still function in a way that's not as patriarchal or not as sexist as how it's been now?
Well, I can't see any successful cases um like outside of Thailand. I mean, probably there's some like fair and equal gender friendly military somewhere out there like in Europe. I'm sure, and I think I read some cases like for example like in Sweden, um but that would take a long while as well. um yeah, the reform might need to come first to be able to actually tackle gender equalities like sexism kind of like issues within the Thai military. It might happen, but it's, again, like it requires so much more than just like I don't know, hiring more women, putting women in the leadership roles because it just yeah, these women need to not go up as well, and I still can't see how that's gonna happen. Where there's like this is wrong. I'm gonna change how the system works. I'm gonna change. I'm not gonna co-op anymore. Um, it will take such courage
Mm,
to get to that point. But I think it could happen because it just again like the militaries as institutions usually mirror social progresses and developments. Um, and that means that like if Thailand or the Thai culture shifts so much in terms of like I don't know, um, accepting because I mean accepting gender equalities and accepting gender diversities, like the military will follow the lead, but it will take longer for the military to follow the lead. So it could take 10 years after everything is like properly settled, like outside of the military. So yeah, it depends on that as well, and it could occur. It could happen if the society as a whole progresses so much to the point that other institutions change the way that gender functions within these institutions. Within the military will follow suit.
yeah, yeah, this makes sense. I mean, I guess maybe there's hope for societal change, and maybe
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
the military would be like one of the last vestiges to do in that. But I could see what you're saying. I mean, it sounds like within the military, the incentive structure, like there would need to be a change to the incentive structure. And right now,
yeah,
it's kind of a self-reinforcing feedback loop because it's currently set up to kind of funnel that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it does also seem like even if there are types of societal changes, it seems like sometimes the military has been known to kind of push back and
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah,
reinforce like an older system. Like that's at least a
yeah, yeah,
criticism I'll hear with the um with what happened with the first female prime minister last year. And I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
that it wasn't the military; it was the courts that kicked her out. So that wasn't officially a coup, but it seemed
yeah,
like there was a bit of a oh, there's a woman in charge. Let's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um and then kind of like a reestablishment of the old
Yeah.
system. Or yeah, what do you think?
I think again, like that reminds me of the concept of militarization. Again, like militarization is not just about the military; it's about the idea, like militarist ideas and norms and practices permeate like deep down the soil of the society, basically. And that means that like the idea of gender understood within the military travel like transcends as well. So yeah, like you're right. Like actually, like the first prime minister was like the first female prime minister in Thailand. That was pre 2014 coup. I think it was like around like 2012, 2013.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so she is the aunt of the recent female prime minister,
the
like the
one I was
second.
talking about.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, her administration was overthrown by the military coup, the military coup in 2014. So again, the cycle. It's just part of the cycle. But yeah, like it's hard. So basically, the idea of militarization it impacts women directly because it would put women outside of these core kind of domains like international relations, diplomacy, security, like politics. Like women um can't be seen in these kind of areas, or if they are seen in these kind of areas, they would be suppressed or they would be seen as I don't know um, a threat. Basically, they would be seen as threats to the national security. So it is that bad, and this is something that also happens in Thailand because every single time we have female prime ministers, there will be some narratives or public narratives or media narratives pointing to their womanhood or femininity. Or they're too fragile, they're too sensitive, they're too emotional, they're not qualified, they're not respectable in the same way that male prime ministers would be regarded or would be considered or would be seen. Um, and that womanhood is usually used to um as a weapon basically like weaponized turn them into like a I don't know a threat to the national security basically and I think we saw that in like this recent kind of like scenario with Pratam Tanchinawat as well. So yeah, like for me, like it just it's part of militarization because again, militarization has something to do with women, and because militarization functions on the basis that um, masculine values are something that we need to protect as part of the country. So people would do anything to protect these masculine values, and women are seen as threats, like to militarization and to these like values. So yeah, it's just part of it, and that's how I see it.
Mm, yeah, I mean, this makes total sense. That they would be seen. It's unfortunate that they would be seen as a threat in that way, and it does also seem like like I mean, the point. This is something you already said a while ago, but like putting in a female leader doesn't necessarily solve the problem in and of itself. Like,
No, yeah,
I think you kind of hinted at this when you were like the more recent prime minister was the aunt of the other prime minister, of the first female prime minister, but like both come from a pretty clear political family, like a political
yeah, yeah,
dynasty family that has turned out a
yeah,
lot of elite politicians, a lot of prime ministers, and they're and you know as women they still might be beneficiaries of the type of um, political aristocracy kind of like military
Yeah,
aristocracy that you've been talking about. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, and maybe even in charge, like they might not have much incentive to actually fully dismantle it. So
Yeah.
the second one did talk the talk of doing that, but I guess we didn't get to see whether or not
No,
that was something she would actually do.
no,
Um,
no.
yeah. What what would you recommend, or where would you recommend for anyone who wants to learn more about your work, and maybe wants to learn more about some of these dynamics in the Thai military and Thai society more generally?
Yeah, I guess like I'm trying to understand more from the policy side as well. I think that's something that I didn't do much in my work. I mean, I did talk about it, but because I focus on this kind of like the complex relationships between the military, gender, and media. And that's my main focus and try to stay focused on these kind of areas. And because of that, like, for example, I didn't really look into the history, like the historical side of it, like more deeply. And I wanted to as well to try to understand more of what happened and how it happened, like in terms of like the women's enlistment into the military. And again, because of the lack of the military doctrines and any written kind of like historical materials that I could access, it's hard to confirm and it's hard to make sense. Um, but I wanted to get into that kind of area. I also want to. I mean, I also I'm working on writing the proposal right now for the book proposal to try to get my thesis, turn my thesis into a monograph. But because I'd also kind of, I don't want it to be like a academic book that talks about all the theories that everyone already knows somewhere somehow. I wanted to make it into like an empirical kind of work um, and do something fun about it. Um, so yeah, like I'm thinking about like talking to more women, getting into different aspects of gender as well. Like what about queer women, for example? What what their experience within the military looks like, something like that. So I think that's something that I'm thinking and working on right now, um, and just try to make I don't know my research more accessible because it's really important to make it more accessible to people, like to most people, because again, military is part of your everyday life in Thailand. Like you can't just read my book and then like can't understand a thing. It has to be really accessible and fun enough for people to grasp like points I wanted to make. Um, and I think that's what I'm working on. But again, like, and that's something about the policies as well. The changing policies because when I started my research and what I see now, there have been so many shifts and changes from the inside in relation to the idea around gender. And I want to be able to get into that more and more to try to understand, like, okay, are these changes signal anything like bigger than just I don't know doing something for the sake of doing something, or they actually like, and this is part of our conversation as well. Do do they actually want to change or to push the change forward? So that's something that I'm looking into as well. But again, it's still in the process. It's still pretty much in the process. So and yeah, I hope like some of the publications would help to give that clearer ideas of what I'm working on right now.
That's really that makes sense. That's really cool. I mean, I'm glad that you're thinking through this. These seem like exciting things. So I love to see what you come up with. Maybe for anyone, I'm going to try to include at least the link to your page on the university that you
Yeah.
so people
Yeah.
can check it out. Maybe by the time you're listening to it, some of the work that she just talked about is published. Maybe not. I guess time will tell. But yeah, this is really cool. I mean, this is really helpful. I know, it's really helpful kind of understanding what this looks and feels like on the ground in the military, because I'll often hear the systems in Thai society at like the big picture level, but like actually looking at like what women experience in the military is super interesting. It's just not something I have a good reference.
And it's hard to explain as anyway. Sometimes it's hard for me to explain because it requires so much context. Like you almost need to like contextual understandings. Like this is how it is. This is what it looks like. And I think you have that kind of familiarity. But for some people who have zero idea of what the Thai politics looks like, what the Thai culture looks like, what the Thai military looks like, it might take like 5 days for me to try to explain each element, like each aspect of it, because everything works together as a whole. It's hard for me, and it's hard for me in the thesis itself, because to look at like this relationship between the military, gender, and media, then I need to talk about the history of it. I need to talk about the Thai politics, where the military plays such a crucial role within that. And then I need to talk about the Thai cadet academy, because I cannot not talk about it, because it's so important in the data itself. So yeah, it took me a while to come up with something like that works together as a whole, like in a thesis. But yeah, hopefully some publications or maybe like this book in the future, I don't know when, will help to clarify things in a much and more meaningful kind of way.
This makes total sense. I mean, militaries are known for having very specific ways of operating and having very like narrow, like you have to kind of understand the lingo. But yeah, thanks. I guess Token Crab or thank you for taking
Yeah.
And I hope you have a good rest of your morning.
Maybe
the sun is risen by now.
Yeah, it's around midday. Still morning.
There we go. Okay, so the sun is
the sun is still not there to be seen.
Well, that's very UK. So maybe the sun's taking a break today.
Probably it will be like this the whole day.
There we go. But yeah, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me as well.